Well, I'm back. So hopefully you enjoyed hearing me talk before, because you got a couple more minutes. I'll be a lot quieter this time though, and let our panelists go. So thank you all. This next panel segment is 2024 industry trends and predictions. And so I will let our panelists introduce themselves, and we'll get into some great questions. So go take it away. Jamie, we'll start with you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie McGarry. I lead growth and strategy for CPG at Quad, and I wish I had candy to throw out for anybody who knows what Quad is. Oh, there's some hands. Great. We're a collective of marketing solutions. Yeah, I'm not going to hit anybody in the face. Collective of marketing solutions, everything from brand design and strategy to creative, integrated media offering, all the way down to the production to physically bring the ideas in store, on shelf, in home. So very happy to be here. Who's next?
Barron, let's go with you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Barron Gira. I'm with Volta Charging, also known as Volta Media. Perhaps some of you beyond Lance knows what we do. We are, first and foremost, electric vehicle charging company. Picture says 1,000 words. So if you look up at the screen there, our unique aspect compared to other electric vehicle charging companies you may be familiar with, Tesla tends to be one of the bigger ones, is the fact that we have very large 55-inch dual-side media screens on each of our chargers. The other piece, if you go to a Jewel or Walgreens nearby, you'll notice they're literally 50 feet or 50 steps before you walk in the front door. So you as brand or shopper marketers can have that last communication with the consumer in a very uncluttered environment. We also say it's like bringing the end cap out into the parking lot. Most predominantly, we've seen among brand and shopper marketing teams to drive conversion, and we can also measure that. Prior to Volta, I've been here 2 years. Prior to Volta, I spent 10 years at Quotient, and then prior to that, I was 10 years at Catalina Marketing.
All right. And Landon, last for you.
So I'm Lance. I am an art school dropout who landed in advertising. I'm really grateful for it. Today I work at a creative media company called PadSquad. If you don't know, we're a company that helps brands make their digital media more impactful through creative solutions that use innovation to drive remarkable results. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. No, I think this is going to be great. And so let's dive right in. So first question. Looking back at the past few years, what major shifts have you observed in consumer behavior and preferences, and how have brands adapted to these changes?
I'll jump in. I think we all know, physical, digital, the whole balance of that journey, it keeps flipping on its head, right? It seems like every year. And we know that packaged goods are primarily purchased in physical retail still. However, especially if you have a teen or a tween in your house like I do, we all know the role of social commerce is huge. The seamless nature from which you can go from ad to purchase is crazy, right? My daughter shows me, I want these Uggs, I want this Stanley, whatever it is. And so that's really seamless. But I was also struck by Crunchbase just published an article the other day that said, investors don't do DTC anymore. I don't know if anybody saw that, but it shows that the investments in DTC are down 97% from the boom in 21. Many reasons for that, but when I read further into it and you look at those DTC brands that are successful, a lot of them have a physical presence, some physical interaction with consumers, whether it's on their own like Casper or Purple that now have stores and locations, or products like Madison Reed has partnership with Walmart, so they're physically in there, or Glossier in Sephora. So again, I think that's a trend that we've seen that I don't think is going to stop, right? It's how do we blend the physical and the digital to really deliver a better consumer experience?
I could build on that, of course. The fact that you mentioned a couple brands that have their own physical presence with CPG, Kraft obviously leading the way. We happen to be here today. Depending on other locations to sell their products, so if you consider the retailers. We talked about where our locations are with our screens and our chargers in front of those the retailers where the consumer is about to go shop. Many of you out there, especially on the shopper marketing side, over the last few years with the, you couldn't avoid it, the rise of retail media networks out there, perhaps you've been encouraged strongly by those retailers to participate in a very large way. And early on, many of us did because we felt obligated, right? But now we're looking year over year to say, I need to go back and justify those investments from an ROI standpoint. So as we're still, as you pointed out, in a physical world, even though digital is or direct-to-consumer online is a portion of that, I think it's up to us, technology suppliers, but also our retailers, as they're rolling out retail media networks in a bigger way, to come to us as marketers in a way that is a little more mindful on, you know, that consumer journey. What is going to resonate with the consumer? What is contextually relevant? But at the end of the day, in order to make this long-term and growing and make it sustainable, this stuff has to work, right? And the way to do that, again, is back to a digital type consumer experience, and also make sure it's contextually relevant.
I'll put in a couple of thoughts, maybe at a different angle. Touching on the social piece, though, is that youth and all of us have turned to social platforms as search. We're going to social, even Reddit, not just TikTok. Everybody talks about TikTok all the time, but going to Reddit to try and find answers to our problems or find new products reviews. So as marketers, we have to really start to shift our mindset in terms of what our creative is, what our creative messaging is, how do we make that relevant, and start to mimic or adapt what's happening so that you can tie into cultural moments. I think that's the big shift, is that consumers were doom scrolling through these platforms, and it takes a lot more to stop you in your tracks and to capture attention. So I think that's the big shift, is brands having to be thoughtful about developing really special strategies for kind of the new media environments. And that goes all the way to CTV, digital out of home, any of the new platforms that are kind of popping up.
So you all hit on some really good points, really highlighting that zero moment of truth, that before the shopping occasion, like how do you get on the shopping list, or how do you get them to even start to consider the brand? And thanks for bringing up Reddit, because I swear in the last 3 years, like, I've become a real big Reddit user for searching.
It's a problem.
So as we move further into 2024, what emerging technologies do you believe will have the greatest impact on brand marketing strategies? Good segue into that.
If you read any of the industry trends, the thing that like everybody's talking about, at least if you touch digital, is the death of the cookie. And the death of the cookie is something that really affects every marketer, depending on what you're looking at or what your objectives are as a marketer. If you're looking at attribution and what happened and where did I get this transaction, where did somebody get to the cart? And I think for us that the shift in our mindset into what it takes to be able to activate audiences, use context, use creative, there's a through line here, creative, is really, really important. And so it's taking what's out there and what's a challenge and making it something new and making it a positive instead of a negative, and then being able to use old technology. Like, as marketers, we love shiny objects, but there's a lot of things that are kind of foundational that we have kind of forgotten about, that I think that we can do a better job with and really tap into those cultural moments. There's a stat out there on the creative front, published by Magna Research on creative and ad effectiveness. And it says 56% of a campaign's performance is actually creative-led. So when you think about the technologies that are out there, even something as simple as having a mobile phone where you consume most of your content, there are things like accelerometers, haptic touch screens, shaking capabilities, things that exist in this simple device that you carry with you every day that we don't use. And thankfully, like, those are things we can start to tap into today that are like old technology and match it to the challenge of creative cookies, and make some sort of magic there.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add, especially with the great discussion earlier about creative, having the right creative is critical, or great creative is critical. Having the right creative, if you don't have that, it misses the mark. Meaning, if your objective as a brand is to drive conversion, but you supply us, for example, with creative, although it's great, around awareness, it's going to miss the mark and not deliver on those KPIs you're looking to deliver. So that's important too, the right creative.
I'll just jump in because we can't have a conversation without AI. right? But I would say my point of view is, that AI train is not going to stop. The conversation's not going to stop. And right now where we are, I firmly believe it's more about kind of authentic intelligence, right? The human touch overlaying. What were you going to make a joke?
I was making a joke. We should make it a drinking game. Authenticity, just like.
I'd say authentic.
but I think we all still agree we're not there yet with AI, right? And so as we bring it into our lives as marketers and deliver to consumers, it still requires that human oversight and partnership to make it right and to make the experiences right.
Those are great points, and I think that you hit on something, Barron, there about the right creative, and that's something as marketers have to. It's part of the, what's your real objective? Because sometimes we want to do everything. We want to drive awareness. We want to drive, it's conversion, and we try to pack everything into one thing. So I love that. So keep pushing on us marketers to get our KPIs right. So this is a good segue talking about creative. So personalization has been a buzzword in marketing for some time now. So how are brands leveraging data, also AI, to deliver more personalized experience to their customers, and what challenges do they face in doing so?
I'll go first. We're kind of going in order here. I think that you have to look at the consumer first, right? So I saw something over there that inspired this part. But if we're thinking about how consumers are looking at content and what they're doing, it's really important to leverage technology and insights to be able to adapt everything we're doing. So as partners, PadSquad works with Kraft, Philadelphia cream cheese. We work to be able to do really great digital campaigns for them. And the technology that's coming, to me, AI shouldn't be called artificial intelligence. It should be augmented intelligence. Because all of the tools and technology that we're developing allow us to do our jobs better, faster, and in ways that allow us to be relevant to culture. So I saw some drip gear over there from Heinz. And PadSquad worked together with the team to develop a shoppable video unit that had the ability to put these limited drop apparel items in front of the right consumers in a way that felt very social shopping and was able to take a very premium vintage product, being apparel, clothes, and sell them with Heinz drips on them. And that is only made possible by being really smart about what's happening within consumer mindsets, what's happening within culture, and then using technology to be able to execute quickly.
Any builds? Barron?
Mic drop.
No, it was good. Nice mic drop. The only thing I'd mention to that, and it was awesome to hear from Julia at Build-A-Bear. So we talked to so many marketers, Damian, we were talking about this the other day or even yesterday about wanting first-party data, right? Having as much and as rich first-party data as possible. And many brands are super successful with that. For example, Nike, no different than you. I'll give them all the information they want because I'd love something in return, like marketed to me, savings perhaps, et cetera. I'm a consumer of bath tissue too, but I'm not about to give, brand X my information on bath tissue hoping for something in return. But at Build-A-Bear, when you have this data, then what do you do with it? So Build-A-Bear, it was awesome to hear that they can identify their current consumers. They want to keep them loyal, right? They don't want that leaky bucket to lose those. They want to keep them loyal. It's probably the most efficient spend is to spend against your current. But then the other consumers that fall into either switchers or even potentially never buys, how do you truly identify them and market to them in a very personalized way that lines up with their behavior? And I think that's super difficult to do. One is getting to the data, and then the two is using it in a very relevant way to get the consumer to act. It's been a tough journey for many.
All I would layer on is, when you start with the data, just make sure that you've got a partner that can deliver the right data. I think data has become so accessible, but it is not always reflective of the personalized experience that consumers want, need, or even the correct ones. If you do, things like, access your data request and look at that, a lot of times it's not reflective of who I am or who you are, and that's what we're basing all of our marketing off of. So making sure that we're getting as close to either first party or accurate data, I think is key.
I have a question for the audience. Has anyone gone to Google or Facebook and seen what categories you are in? Were you shocked? Did it look like you? If you haven't, you should totally look. And you should totally understand how data is super valuable. We've all been followed around the internet by that thing you already purchased or that thing that you are thinking about purchasing. But if you are in this content category, this context category where it doesn't really match, you have to appreciate it as a marketer, know that, hey, we're doing a lot better job than we used to. But that first-party data is super invaluable, especially in the world like without cookies, where you really want to understand what's possible to know your customer.
No, those are some great points, and I love what you said, Jamie, there about like making sure the data is good. That's why I think it's good to marry the art and the science, and still be humans as marketers. To like, does the data pass the sniff test, and like, does it feel like the right thing? Because not all data is correct. So, I'm going to say the word though. My next question: brand authenticity and transparency are increasingly valued by consumers. So how are brands communicating their values and building trust with their audience in 2024?
We've seen a big boom with startups and smaller brands having an easier time doing this. I mean, we all know authenticity bleeds from everything a brand does, from the packaging and brand design to how they're showing up on shelf, what they're communicating, their language, everything. And so we found that some of these smaller brands are actually really able to embrace that in more meaningful ways than some of the bigger brands that have to steer and turn the whole ship. And obviously, I think a key component has been the sustainability conversation and transparency with that, and not just saying it. How are you acting upon it? How does it feed into your purpose and what you're doing out in the world? And so just, again, I think it's just a whole holistic approach to how can we be more authentic with even just the little things we're doing.
I couldn't help hear the word sustainability. Because we're tied to EV chargers, we tend to get that natural index. A brand that runs on our screen, consumers make that natural tie that says, wow, Coke is running on our screen. Even though Coke may not have a call out about sustainability, they must care about the environment because they're running on an EV charger. But at the same time, other brands that want to truly have that call out about sustainability many times are accused of greenwashing, or they're advertising their brand in places that truly are not sustainable. I would argue in the world of digital out of home, traditional billboards on the side of the road are not as sustainable as an EV charger, digital out of home billboard. So I think the mismatch there could throw consumers off either way, positive or negative, and it has to just be aligned with what their objective is.
No, that was a good point, Barron. And I think you hit on that, like the greenwashing, and that's where I think, coming back to what we talked about Kraft earlier, knowing your brand and what conversations do you have the right to play in, and where does it make sense, and how does your brand show up there? Good. So looking ahead to 2024 and beyond, what do you believe will be the biggest challenges and opportunities for brands in the ever-evolving landscape of marketing and advertising?
Surprised you're not jumping in.
I'm trying to hold back. I'll just talk the whole time. They didn't come to see me.
Big existential question. Solve it for us. What do we need?
Well, so I'll take something just super specific. In the world of CPG, we've obviously had an uncertain economy, political landscape. That's affected business, right? That's affected buying. Consumers are buying less. One of the things that we've kind of guided some brands through is this kind of treating and treats trend, right? How can we take these smaller products, they're not big ticket items, but make them like little luxuries and experiences, right? So that it's not just a product off shelf, whether that's alcohol, whether that's chocolate, whatever that is, and not even for ourselves, but also for gifting. So, right, we're justifying that spend in these tougher times where people are cutting back. Has seemed to be, a popular thing in 23, and I don't know that I see that slowing down for 24 either.
I think that going back to what was talked about on a former panel, kind of thinking about the interesting fabric that is the U.S., and when we're talking about U.S. marketing as humans and individuals, it goes back to personalization, but it's this idea of making sure that our branding and the campaigns that we're building aren't just one hero asset in my mind. We can't just keep trying to make a piece of creative that speaks to everyone. So I was at South by Southwest, had an amazing speaker from Kraft Heinz, actually, talking about marketing mac and cheese. And really how important it is to consider that there are different consumer segments and different types of CPG category buyers that need different messaging. And so whether we're talking about technology, we're talking about strategies, I think there's going to be a massive push in 2024 around this idea of creating stories, campaigns that speak to unique audiences, with each of us panelists being representative of like very different persons as individuals. And so I want to see brands lean into that, use the technology, use the insights that we've never had before to know our customers better than ever, to build that kind of bridge to different audiences in different ways. Like, I have a simple little story about AI, because you talked about it. I used to say it was a drinking game at Cannes last year, because everyone talked about it. But the simple little story is to say, again, if we're augmenting our intelligence or our capabilities with AI, you could be a brand marketer that is Toyota, one of our partners, who knows that in Southern California they have a highly Hispanic and Asian population. They know that their buyers and their audiences that are going to be interested in EV vehicles, interestingly enough, are very unique, and there's a very specific persona. And Toyota, big company with big hero assets, very few hero assets developed for Hispanic or Asian audiences. They turned to PadSquad. We helped them use Gen AI to create assets that they didn't have, to create a campaign that they didn't have, so that we could build a lantern campaign promoting cars at the appropriate time of the year for Asian Americans in the LA area. And so I think just being really smart about how we can tell these stories and iterate on these stories to make them relevant to the unique audiences, whether it's culture, it's your financial background, financial literacy. Thinking about these audiences and really starting to talk to them in their own way, I think is what I strive for, and I think a lot of marketers that I've heard talking about care about for 2024.
That's great. That's awesome. So any questions from the audience? I don't know. I haven't gotten a time check yet.
Yeah, we have like 3, I think.
Maybe I did and I wasn't paying attention.
No, you're good. It's hard to catch everyone's eyes. But we can move to some questions because I'm sure people will have them.
I do have candy to throw if it helps.
First, can I ask, actually, it'd be helpful if
Lisa
you can.
Giardina, Reynolds Consumer Products. So I'm curious just on the model that you have working with the bigger agencies. I'm assuming, I don't know how it's set up, but I'm just curious how you're structured to make it
I think
work.
she's talking to me.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So it's really easy. So we're, our company, while I talk about creative all the time, at the end of the day, we're a media company. So we partner with Kraft Heinz Media Agency to deliver solutions, but the solution is powered by creative, right? Take creative assets and the creative teams that you guys already work with and try and just make them better. And so I think, and it's not just PadSquad, like if you're working with TikTok, many of you are, I'm sure, like you should be working with TikTok to be able to figure out what that right creative is and how to make the best of it. When you're working with Volta, you should be figuring out the best practices there, right? So I think it's something you should challenge your partners to do more of. It just so happens that it's like what I live and breathe every day.
Thank you. Any other questions? We do have a minute if we can take that over here.
So I've really enjoyed the discussion about creative all the way through to the digital delivery. But with what we're seeing, that the shifts in the market right now, there's some blending. And could you talk a little bit about how you see that with creative, whether it's originates with influencers or paid creators, and how that moves from content that's going to be posted, or whether that gets turned into a digital ad? And I noticed, like in our own marketing team, there's this, well, who should handle this now? Because it starts in one traditional spot and might now take 3 or 4 people collaborating. So I'm wondering what you're seeing with this experience, creative inside, outside, influencers, turn it into digital ads. What's your take?
Is that me again? I know you do this too, but I'll share. So from our view, brands, I used to work in influencers for a short period of time, and I think it's an incredible channel especially within social content. But the key as marketer, we're putting my marketer hat on, is really making sure you have the rights and usage for when you're working with a creator, big or small, making sure that you can use it cross-channel, because every channel, even CTV, has the ability to do amazing things with social content. There's some really cool ad executions that are out there that are blending together 9:16 vertical content and 16:9 content. And so for me, that's the first step. And then the next piece is just talking about the audience and what they actually care about, so that you're able to deliver an experience. Shoppable video, we talked about in the social channels, super compelling in social. Did you know you could take those same assets and build that same experience in the open web and deliver that thing in the open web so that it has more legs and you can broaden your reach, leave the walled garden. Sorry, any walled gardens in here? But to be able to do more and actually measure it more. So to me, it's that collaboration, but it has to start with utilization and then like socialize what you have to be able to do more with it.
And I would say, to follow up on that, I think it is about the collaboration, to make sure that your teams truly are collaborating arm in arm, because you're going to have to follow the ideas, right? What's authentic? What's true about your brand that everybody loves, and where are the ideas that are going to propel that business forward, and what is the best way to distribute those? And that can come from anywhere. So it really, as long as your teams, I believe, are arm in arm, to move quickly, that should just be the goal.
And like a quick best practice that I've heard from our partners is doing show and tell. Like, you're all busy, everybody's doing their things, but like really going in and celebrating work with or without your creative teams, like across marketing orgs, is super important. It's so important to be able to say, hey, we did this cool thing, you guys never heard of it, never saw it, but you should know, and by the way, you can use it. So that would be the other thing I'd say.
Thanks so much.